Hi.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone.
So I think we're slated to start at 1 o'clock. So
Yes.
we'll just wait a few more minutes. Jamie, we can't hear you if you're talking.
Oh, hey, okay, let's try that.
Okay, there we go. Perfect.
I forget, is that St. Lawrence behind you? Your space?
Roberts Wesleyan.
Oh, I think I have that, okay, tagged wrong maybe in some of my information.
Or wait, I'm sorry, it's St. John Fisher.
John
What am I
Fisher, okay.
thinking?
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
that's what I meant, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well. All right.
Kathy, I made you co-host. You're the chair of the session, so I'll just here.
Rosa, do you have control? Would you be able to let me do screen
Yes.
sharing?
Yes, so I'll make Jamie, right? You the co-host. Then Chelsea, would you like co-host privilege as well, right?
Yes, please. I'll be kicking us off.
Okay, co-host. How about next presenters?
Laura is our next
Laura.
presenter.
Okay, Laura, I'll give you co-host privileges as well. Do you have a co-presenter, Laura, or is that you only? I think you're on mute.
There we go, Zoom 101.
I had the same thing.
It's just me, but I opted for the video, so I think you're the one that starts that, right? Or is that me?
I will start that.
Okay, perfect.
I'll share that and make
That's
sure
1
that-
a.m., so I don't trust myself anymore.
It's 1 o'clock in the morning where you are?
Yeah.
Wow.
Where are you? That's what I was just
Singapore.
going to ask.
Which country, Laura?
I'm in Singapore.
Okay.
Oof.
You are
So yeah, I'm not sure I'll make it to the end of today. I'll try. I'm still hanging in there.
Wow. Wow.
I have your video all ready to go when it's time.
Yeah, perfect.
So we'll have Chelsea and Jamie speak first.
That's good.
Thank you for joining us from Singapore. You are dedicated.
You're a trooper.
That's why I'm by myself. My partner said, yeah, good luck with that one.
So do you win the distance award? Or time zone
yeah.
award, right? If distance is relative in the virtual.
Well, there's two other
Exactly.
people from Singapore that were presenting in the session just now, in the 11:15 session.
Oh.
Wow.
Well, you're later than them, so you still
True.
get that. So you'll have Chelsea and Jamie, you'll have 15 minutes and then we'll have 5 minutes for Q&A. And then I will start Laura's video too when we're finished with that. And Laura, your video is 13 minutes. So, you know, if you're still with us,
Oh wait,
we'll have you
yes.
do live Q&A, which would be wonderful to hear from you and to hear. Do you want to greet everybody before I hit play?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Maybe we'll explain why you're doing a video.
I have to say it was quite a challenge getting it all packed in 15 minutes.
I had to do mine a few times too.
It
And
took
I
me
would talk
forever. I
faster
was
and
like,
faster.
damn it.
Instead of cutting things out, I would just talk faster and faster.
I know, right? But you don't want to do that either.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So Reza, as far as my stuff, I'm all set, right? I don't have to do anything crazy.
No, I don't think so. I recording on my side and I'll just keep the session open. And if anyone else needs privileges, I can give them.
Perfect. I think we're good.
And for those that are on early, if you don't mind, maybe open up chat and just drop in a hello of where you're from. So I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
All right, so Dr. Littlefield, should we start at 1 o'clock right now?
I will, yeah, let me get you started right now. I will go ahead and kick it off.
All right.
Oh, so I'll stop for a second because I know they're going to edit the video. So welcome everyone to the 1 o'clock session, 1 o'clock Eastern session. I have the pleasure of introducing our first speakers, presenting Activated Hybrid Learning Classrooms virtual tour. And it will be Chelsea and Jamie talking. So please take over from here.
All right, well, I'll kick us off. Welcome, everyone. And my name is Chelsea Leach, and I'm a client business manager with Steelcase. I am located out of beautiful Buffalo, New York, and Jamie is coming to you live from our headquarters for Steelcase out in Grand Rapids. So today we have been talking a lot about the technology for some of these HyFlex classrooms. But for the next 15 minutes, we're going to be thinking through how physical space can support synchronous learning and really braiding that technology component with space. And we've developed some best practices for integrating technology and space to create what Steelcase likes to call the 3 E's of equity, ease, and engagement, and really help students see what's happening and to stay engaged in some of these classrooms. So Jamie's going to walk us through 2 different classrooms at our headquarters in Grand Rapids at Steelcase and talk about some of the furniture and technology solutions that some of the higher ed universities and colleges are utilizing across the country. So I will kick it over to Jamie Moyer.
Thanks, Chelsea. So like Chelsea said, I'm Jamie Moyer. I've got a mobile camera on a cart. So I wanted to wheel you through a few different spaces. If any of you were on Logitech's noon time lunch and learn, except Laura, time zone. I don't know what how that translates, midnight lunch and learn. They were talking about their technology solutions for spaces, and we wanted to show you how we're using Logitech solutions in a Zoom room here. How do technology and space work together to create that ideal HyFlex learning environment? Or we're seeing many universities even thinking about hybrid workspaces. How might some of this be scaled down to conference rooms, training rooms, collaboration spaces? So wanted to take you in a few spaces. I would love to ask some questions. So if people are comfortable clicking into chat, a few of you were sharing where you're from. So love to see that. I'm in our Learning and Innovation Center in Michigan, but formerly I was at our office in Los Angeles. So worked with many of the universities up and down the West Coast, and now back in my home state of Michigan for 6 winters now, in case you're wondering, wait, how did you get from California to Michigan? So love to share that. Chelsea was talking about equity, ease, and engagement. As we were thinking about how you can better support HyFlex learning, how might your spaces need to change on campus? So would love to drop in if there's a typical classroom. If any of you want to describe what classrooms on your own campuses look like, feel free to drop it in. Are they pretty mobile? Are they flexible? Are they pretty outdated? Are they more traditional? So again, if you don't mind opening up chat, just share what your classrooms look like. As we were thinking about what has changed with technology since the pandemic, how might spaces need to change? So our team is very focused on pedagogy, technology, and space. First off, how are you teaching? What are the tools? And then let's think about how space supports you, rather than saying, it doesn't really matter how you teach or what you're using. Here's your tablet armchair classroom, and you need to figure that out. So we took a number of classrooms. We'll just show you 2 today, but we wanted to experiment with, again, how can space better support that experience when some of your students are on campus and some are online. So we're thinking about even how easy is it to start up a room. So we're using a Logitech Tap solution, so we can come push a button and we would be started up in our meeting or our class. The monitors are on, the microphones are on, the speakers are on, and you're in that Zoom session. We've had a lot of universities come in here in person, and they'll tell us, well, usually up at the lectern, there's a 10-step checklist on how to get connected. And step number 11 says call IT. So I wish there was I'm not seeing faces, but if anyone, if that resonates with anyone, yeah, you'll have to let me know. Or I had one group in here last week that said, oh, usually step number 1 says call IT. So how easy is it to get your room up and running? How simple? I've had many schools tell us, we know there might be more advanced technology out there, but there's times where it makes sense just to keep things simple, keep things consistent. What's the most reliable way to get things up and running? So wanted to experiment with that. We are experimenting with a number of monitors, and we're wondering, do you need multiple monitors? Does one become a confidence monitor? How are you using them in different ways? So I just wanted to pull up a picture. If we had remote participants in the room, we would see their faces on the left and content on the right. So that alone has been such a joy, a wonder, something that we said we absolutely love. When you can see your students or your coworkers on one screen, you can see if they're raising their hands, are they nodding along, are they rolling their eyes at you? So what a better experience for the remote participants to feel like they have a seat in class. So just something to think about. The picture that's up right now is a university that was in from the UK. Here in Michigan, they were wondering, hey, what's happening with other colleges and universities across North America as you're thinking about new ways of working? Who might be implementing hybrid work strategies? Who's getting rid of off-campus real estate? So we had a great session where you're seeing how mobile the furniture could be, that we could arrange it. So you've got one eye on your in-room participants, one eye on your online participants. And we had 10 colleges and universities from around North America with us having a conversation. And it was such a great back and forth dialogue. I know that's different than a HyFlex class, but it was that idea that you really could have an immersive conversation and everyone is not physically in the room, because we could move the furniture to make it work to face the participants. We could see the virtual participants. Seeing them is very important, but being able to hear is even more important. So something to think about on your own classrooms on campus. Would love to share, again, if you don't mind in chat, do you tend to have carpet in the classrooms? Do you tend to have hard floors? On the conversation of acoustics, again, being able to hear is more important than being able to see. So we experimented in this room with just one wall of acoustic tile. And we were wondering, does that really make a difference if we have some soft surfaces in here, maybe high quality ceiling tiles? And our remote participants will tell us, absolutely, this room gives them the best auditory experience. So just something to think about, again, as you're creating your own spaces. Thanks, Beverly, for jumping in. As you're creating your own environments, if you are trying to support those remote participants or connect maybe campus to campus, if you're doing any kind of course sharing, thinking about acoustics, that's an easy way to just make a better auditory experience for the remote participants by having some acoustic tiling on the walls, maybe the ceilings. We're experimenting with really mobile furniture. So does that work? What's the reset protocol? Does it make some faculty nervous when they come in and they're seeing wheels on everything? So we've had some really fun debates when you get to bring your end users in here in person. What do you think about that movement? is there a time where maybe you need to be able to fold up the tables, push them aside, and you might just want to circle up the chairs and be in more of a seminar mode with one eye on your online participants and one eye on the in-room participants? Having a lot of conversation too about how flexible should the space be, how mobile, how much work surface area. So we are experimenting with just a variety. Are there some students that are going to want to be able to pull themselves away from others? Are there some classes where maybe you don't need as much surface area and it's more about easy configuration, and in 10 seconds you're in a different position? Or again, are you thinking about how many items are in the room and how much surface area? So having conversations about flexibility of the space. A lot of dialogue about how much room you have, how many square feet per student. So something to think about. How do you open up some of the floor space? So that chair I was just moving around in, is there room for your backpack or maybe skateboard from anyone from California below? Or are you using solutions like this where maybe you're getting some of your stuff up off the floor, so it's a little bit easier to have room to move around the space? And then just thinking about what's on the walls of the room. You don't really have a lot of drywall that's visible here. Do you have technology? Is it fixed marker boards? Are they things that move? What Roseanne just shared in the Logitech session a little bit ago was just a Scribe camera, which captures up to a 6 foot wide space. So anything that's being written on the board could be broadcast to the students. So something to think about. And again, if you're willing to put things in chat, for some of those classes where you have remote participants, how do you push written content to remote participants? So I would love your input. Is it Zoom whiteboard? Is it just writing on a white pad? Are you using a Wacom tablet, a smart board? What we're experimenting with was just that idea that you have a camera over a board. So anything that your faculty are writing on the space could be pushed right to your laptop screen. So your laptop would look like this, where you're seeing the content. So just a few other things to think about for that space. I'm going to wheel you to one other area just to give you a little sneak peek. So as I'm rolling through, if anyone has any questions right now, feel free to come off mute or stick them into chat. Thank you, Danielle. So Sharon in West Virginia, Blackboard or Zoom. So again, thinking about how you're pushing written content, are there times where it does make more sense to be using analog versus digital? I've had some groups talk about students in class with vision impairment issues, and they said that could be interesting when the professor's writing on the board, if those students would have the ability to see it on their laptop and blow that up or look at it as at a larger scale. So something to think about. Our building was designed to mirror research showing 2/3 or more of what we learn is done informally. So we have 1/3 of our space dedicated to classrooms and 2/3 dedicated to just those in between spaces. So thinking about what you're doing before or after class, do you need those focus areas? Are you a group of 1? Are you a group of 2 or 4? What's your posture? What's your orientation? So wanted to share a few of those areas. Do have more open real estate in West Michigan than I know many of your campuses probably have, especially in New York, right? It's like call it a office, a hallway, or classroom.
And as Jamie's rolling through some of these spaces, also thinking through what do those spaces look like that professors can record content for asynchronous learning, and thinking through lights, camera, acoustics, all of those various options in space.
So we might scale down what we just saw in that classroom, where we love the 2 side-by-side monitors. That wall-mounted touch unit is sitting on the table in there, so you can start things up. Maybe that becomes your recording booth for class. And then one other space just to take a peek into, I do have a fake Teams meeting running in here, so that'll give you a sense of what that Zoom room would look like. Again, tell your IT teams at least 2 monitors, 1 dedicated to participants. Such a better experience. Remote participants feel so much more part of class or part of meetings when they are seen, and you don't go full content. You forget to ask them if they were there. And then in this room, the solution we did is based on research into more dense environments. So spent a ton of time in New York City, and saw a lot of classrooms where students moved more than the furniture. So are there some spaces that maybe should have a little bit more of a fixed element and let 10 students roll up to this to do a bit of a reflection or sit side by side across the table from one another, kind of in a different setup? We're seeing this a little bit in more creative type of classrooms, or maybe it goes into a learning commons type of space, not always the general purpose classrooms where you're thinking about everyone being lined up or more in testing mode. And then camera, so Laura, the camera on the whiteboard, that is a separate item. It's called a Logitech Scribe, and it can be mounted to any wall. We have ours over a fixed whiteboard where we have a rail on the front with some sliding board. So we would have 3 layers of whiteboard surface on that just to have more writing area. So I wanted to share that. And then I'll just share a couple other pictures why we are in this room, just giving you a preview today of a couple of spaces, but then we have thousands of examples of what other schools are doing for classrooms, cafes, student unions, libraries. So if you're looking for stories, we can share that. Grand Valley's here in Michigan is experimenting with a couple of HyFlex classes where they could bring in remote participants or just use this as a general purpose class on campus. They did a really cool hype video around the space. So if you're trying new things and you're wondering, how do we get the message out there to faculty? We're happy to share some examples of what they were doing to promote it, how they videoed some of their professors in the room, showed how you move it around, what different activities you might be doing. One thing that we didn't show in our previews today is just thinking about different posture. So something to think about, maybe tiering your furniture instead of your architecture. So thinking about how everyone has the best sight line to the front of the room. If you're the remote participant, how can you see more faces in the class if you're getting students on different tiers? Grand Valley was experimenting with a little bit of soft seating in the back of the room, which we had another university look at that and say, this could be interesting also for our visually impaired students that might want to come in and have a little bit of space for their seeing eye dog below. So some examples. And then last picture I will leave you with before questions. What if you made the front row of your classroom really desirable by putting in that big cushy chair and modern day kind of TV table? This is something that University of North Texas was doing, and they were doing HyFlex, but instead of connecting to students at home, they were connecting a satellite campus to main campus. So they could have one professor that taught between the two spaces and connecting room to room. So we're seeing a lot of interesting examples. And today we just wanted to give you a little sneak peek, really get you thinking about how your spaces might need to change as your technology is changing. And then of course, starting first with how your instructors are teaching, and then let's get the tools and space to support you. So we'll hand it back over to the audience. If there's any questions, if you'd like to chime in, I would love to hear even what you're doing on your own campuses, just in terms of rethinking space to better support new ways of teaching and learning.
Thank you, Jamie and Chelsea. I love the idea of those big cushy chairs in the front row. My goodness, you actually get a front row audience at that point.
Yeah, do you get to class?
Let's see, do we have any other questions in chat? I think that you've answered most of them as they were coming in, which was great, Jamie.
Thank you. We do have 5 different spaces around our building here. We're doing virtual tours multiple times a day. So if you're ever saying, hey, that's interesting, let me show my Center for Teaching and Learning, or let's blend academic technology, feel free to connect and we can share things. It looks like there was one question about the microphone. So what we have is a mobile camera cart, Yealink camera on a tripod, and then just a microphone and speaker that is sitting right next to my laptop. So it's our unit for virtual tours, but this could be really interesting. When I've taught different training classes here, there is something nice about having this mobile cart that you can take around, and it becomes the presenter station as well. And then I will put my jmoyer@steelcase.com. I'll put my contact in there, and then remind me about the staff using the spaces. Remind me what I said.
Was it about that where you had the 10 universities in the Zoom room utilizing the space?
Oh, I can share some. Yeah, would you like me to share some more pictures of that? That was when, was it the one with the group in the space?
I think so.
Probably should have videos of the staff using space. Oh, that was great. Sorry, Grand Valley did a hype video, they called it. And let me see if I can find a link and I can share that while Laura is doing her session, but they had their e-learning, e-technologies team come in, videotape a number of faculty using the space. And they just had a little 30-second video that they put out there to try to get other faculty excited about the space, to get them going to the registrar to say, hey, how can I teach in here? How would to get people interested in using the space, the hype video. So I love that idea. And I'll just drop a link in the chat for that. So that could be just a great way. If you create a new space, how do you get people to know about it? How do you get people curious about it? How do you get them to go to the registrar and say, hey, let me get in there? Or how do you get them to come to your Center for Teaching and Learning to say, I'm interested. Could you help, take a look at my syllabus, help me rethink how I might be doing things in the space.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Chelsea. Great information, great examples. I loved having the tour as you were walking around and talking to us. I felt like we were right there.
Yeah.
Thank you for participating in the HyFlex Collaborative Conference too. And so now we're going to turn it over to Laura Visser Kaldenbach. And Laura's going to introduce herself, and then I'm actually going to show her video. So Laura, would you like to say hello to everybody?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I am joining you from Singapore. We are about 12 hours ahead of the US. So for me, it's 1 a.m., well past 1 a.m. So I did not really trust myself anymore to give a good story at this point. So hence I'm relying on the video that I prepared in advance. I will be here for questions though afterwards. So looking forward to that.
I want to make sure that I'm sharing the audio. So here we go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this 15-minute presentation on piloting HyFlex tools and teaching in higher education, perspectives of student and teacher. My name is Laura Visser, and I'm a lead for the Academic Development Department within SIM Global Education. I will start with an introduction on SIM and the Hybrid Plus classroom with all the technical specs. Then I'll discuss the results from the pilot study data and some conclusions and recommendations, and there will be room for questions after. So a very short introduction to our institute. We are a private education institution, and we serve about 16,000 students every year. We work with over 10 partners to offer over 120 academic programs. So how it works is we offer the curriculum of our partner universities, and we offer it locally in Singapore with local teachers for local students as well as foreign students. Last year, we invested in a Hybrid Plus classroom. So we took one of our seminary rooms and we upgraded it with all these high-tech facilities. So we have a desktop right there with 2 monitors for the lecturer. And we have this console right here. From there, everything is organized for the input, the output, connecting all the screens together, starting the Zoom, connecting through to Canvas. Everything goes through that little console. We also have the visualizer here that projects on the big screen, and we have our digital whiteboard over here. So this one is also connected with the big screen. So whatever you want to annotate or add on this one, you can see it there and in the Zoom recording as well. Then we also have this secondary camera, which records all the students sitting in the room. So for the online students, they can then see their classmates that are physically present. And we also have flexible furniture. So can't really make it out very well, but the tables are on wheels, so they're flexible, so you can arrange them in whatever setup works best for you. So that could be like exam-like rows, it could be in a lecture-like semicircle, or you could cluster them together for things like group work. And this is our projector, and this is our roving camera. So this camera is triggered by movement. So it's pointed at the front of the classroom, and as the lecturer walks around, the camera will always follow the lecturer. Then this is one of 4 embedded microphones in the ceiling. We also have speakers embedded, and for the lecturer, maybe they don't have a very loud voice. The microphone will pick up all the sound, the speakers will amplify, and then students in the back of the class will have no problem hearing the lecturer. And that works the other way around as well. As students maybe in the back of the class have a question, the microphone picks up the sound, it's amplified through the speakers, and everyone, including the online students, can hear very clearly. Then the whole system is integrated with Zoom and Canvas. Canvas is our LMS. And the lecturer can bring their own device. We have a ton of plugs, so for whatever content or maybe some activities that they want to do, they can always connect their own devices. Then for our pilot setup, we did the pilot with 2 courses that were already being taught in a hybrid format. Each course consists of 14 classes, and the subjects were tax and accounting. Then we did a survey. We got 65 student responses, and both the lecturers filled it out as well. Then based on those survey results, we did a sort of deep dive interview with both of the lecturers at the end of the course. And during the course, we also did lesson observations, and that was 2 independent observers for every lecturer. So we ended up with 4 lesson observations in total. These are the results of the student survey. So in the red table, you can see that the vast majority and all the online students indicated that they could hear and see the lecture very clearly. Now for the attentive viewer, you may notice that we only have 3 responses for online students. I will get into that later. If we move to the second table, the orange one, the vast majority of students also indicated that they felt they could participate actively during the lessons. And this also included all the online students. Then if we move on to the third table, the blue one, 9 out of 65 students could not see or hear their classmates clearly, they indicated. This could be due to webcams being turned off, or because that secondary camera that we have in the classroom was not being used by the lecturers. So the online students could not see all the students that were in the classroom. However, some of the on-site students, they also logged into the Zoom. Maybe because it was easier to take like screenshots or annotate for notes, I'm not really sure. But that could be a reason why the others did indicate that they can see all their classmates, including online. Then lastly, the green table. Out of 65 students, only 17 preferred to do classes online, so that would be about 26%. Both our lecturers said they really enjoyed teaching in our Hybrid Plus classroom. They both said the interface was really easy to use, the audio-visual quality was really good, they enjoyed the integrated system using the digital whiteboard and the visualizer. Of course, they ran into some challenges as well. There was a connectivity issue with iPads specifically, and they also felt the pressure and the stress. If something was not going according to plan, then they had to fix it quickly to get on with their lecture. For interaction, again, the audio quality was just really great. So anytime someone had a question, the whole group could hear, including the lecturer, and the other way around as well. Everyone could hear the lecturer very clearly. What also really helped them was the annotation illustration. So using the whiteboard and the visualizer to really deep dive into more explanations if the student would give them like a blank stare of, I don't understand, or if there was a question. So that was very good. Then the challenge was some main things that I think every lecturer struggles with, regardless of whether you're teaching in hybrid or HyFlex or not. Webcams turned off, issues with attendance. And one of our lecturers, she used to, or previously she always had polls during her lecture to sort of engage students and get everyone together as a whole class activity. And because the whole system is so new and she was getting used to everything, we decided not to include polls or breakout rooms for that matter. And she really missed that. So that was something that moving forward, we will definitely include. Then for HyFlex, the recording as it is actually gave a pretty equitable learning experience for those that had to miss the live session, because the live session was not very interactive and there wasn't any group work or anything. So in that regard, the current setup is a good starting point for HyFlex. One of the challenges that we had, though, is choice. As it happens, just before we started this pilot, the institution-wide policy was that students could opt for online or on campus, and that had to do with all the COVID restrictions, and anytime you had symptoms, you had to stay home anyway. But just as we were starting this pilot, the policy changed, and therefore the institution policy changed as well, and everyone had to move back to campus, and no one could attend online. So instead of having this really big group of online students, we only had 3 students online because they were not physically in Singapore and they had to log in from their home country. So that was a pity. Then an issue that both the lecturers raised was, for this particular group, they're not the greatest at being self-directed learners. They were fairly young, year 1 students, and both the lecturers felt like maybe this particular age group would not be the best choice to do a HyFlex approach with. So they would both recommend doing it with 3rd year, 4th year, or even master students or adult learners instead. Then for pedagogical approaches, both our lecturers had a very positive attitude towards HyFlex learning. Like I said, they just didn't think it was right for their particular age group. And one of the challenges that we encountered was that at the academic development department, we sort of assumed that the lecturers would adapt their teaching approaches to hybrid HyFlex since they had access to this room, but they didn't. So moving forward, we will definitely help support them a lot more in doing that. For conclusions and recommendations, for the technical aspects, support and testing. Those are the 2 main things. I think on support we did okay. We have a hotline and the lecturers can call and then someone from IT will come down and help them and sort it out. For the different devices, just try everything out. Try out all the devices that the lecturer could bring, try out all the devices that the students could bring, and if there are any issues or something doesn't work, then try and have a backup plan or plan B, and move on from there. For interaction, we would, moving forward, offer more coaching and support on incorporating these interactive aspects to improve the overall learning experience. And we can offer some extra support on using the polls, using the breakout rooms, incorporating any extra tools. We didn't in this case because we didn't want to overwhelm the teachers, but I do feel that in the end they missed out. So I would incorporate it if I could. Then also I would try and think of ways to incorporate for the flex students as well. So maybe things like discussion boards or group homework assignments to really incorporate that whole class approach, including the students that are not there for the live sessions. Then for HyFlex, to set up a HyFlex pilot, I would really recommend to go for an organization-wide approach. We kept it fairly small, and then we ran into issues that were decided on another level, like all the students have to come back to campus right away. So really go for that whole project approach and include as many stakeholders as you can. For a HyFlex adaptation of existing courses, of course, you would need to tweak the course a little bit. So for course planning, you could even do like a step-by-step approach where, for instance, you keep lesson 1 to 4 in the original format, and then from lesson 5 onwards, you could move on to a more flexible approach, and you could scaffold the students along the way. So in that transition, they sort of learn what's expected of them, they learn the benefits, they learn the responsibilities that come with it as well, and then help them develop those skills to be really self-directed learners. For this pilot, and for us, I think we had a fairly equitable learning experience, so it's a very good starting point. For training, we would hope to help and support the lecturers to really incorporate more creative pedagogical approaches, making better use of the whole class experience options that the hybrid classroom offers. And we will definitely be offering more in-depth pedagogical training to help them and coach them as they start and throughout the whole process. So this as well would need to be a joint effort because you will need to tweak the course a little bit for effective HyFlex teaching. So you would need it to be a joint effort from the lecturers, from the teaching and learning center, and your course developers as well. And then if everyone comes together and really sees it as a joint project, then I really think you can make HyFlex a success in your institution. And with that, we reach the end of my presentation. I want to thank you all very much for your attention.
Stop that so it stops talking. I think that was a great synopsis of the pilot study. I think pilot studies are such an important part of when you do change, and implementing HyFlex is certainly a time of change. Are there any questions? Let's see. I was afraid to click on the chat while I was sharing my screen because I didn't want to mess things up. Are there any questions? Let's see. No, I don't see any there. Laura, do you have anything that you would like to add if you're still there? I know it's 1 a.m. in the morning for you, so I'm hoping that you're still with us.
I'm still awake.
Very good, very good. I think what was great that you were able to share was the honesty of what may or may not have worked so well and how you learned from it and are adapting or adapted to make some improvements. Can you talk maybe a little bit about that?
Well, this pilot took place from January to March. And by the end of March, we already had like sort of our preliminary findings of, oh, these are some things that we're running into. So at the end of March, we had a session with some of the heads of programs, some of the academic directors of our partners, to really sort of discuss and go through, like, this is what we noticed, this is what the room can actually do and offer and facilitate, and this is how we would tackle that or how we would put it to good use. And on their level, they got really excited about it and they had a lot of questions. They really want to repeat the session. So we're actually planning for July to do a second session and have one of them sort of do a demo on their own to sort of experience from the teaching side as well. So that's going to be fun. And in the meantime, we also changed our own professional training that we do for the lecturers to, as far as we can, a HyFlex format. So for now, it's mostly hybrid. I tried to do HyFlex for one, and there was just no response on the flex part. So I need to further develop and see how I can really engage them and really get on board.
Yeah,
to participate in the flex part of it. But so far for the hybrid part, it's going really well. So I really want to model to our lecturers, this is what you can do, this is how you can do it with activities, and really have the online and the on-site lecturers, which are my students, do activities together, which so far is really good.
Terrific. We have a couple questions that are popping in too. One is, how often do you gather information from the students and staff about their experience?
So for this, we did, because it's 2 courses, we asked them both, we did the survey in both classes once. And then we interviewed the lecturers once, they also filled out the survey. So per course, we gather info on all fronts once, roughly once, because the lesson observations we did twice. So that would be the exception. And moving forward, we're actually talking to 2 of our partners about continuing this pilot in July or August. So we're hoping to gather more data then as well. But I think we'll do the same, because one of the most valuable data collection points was actually the interviews with the lecturers. Because in a survey, they can give a lot of information, but when we really got down to it, and it didn't even take that long, it was like a 30-minute interview, and they just had so much to share on what they really liked and some of the struggles that they did hit that they couldn't really explain in the survey.
Yeah, I can add that when we did this implementation, we also did focus groups with our faculty to get their perspectives. And we purposely had all of the like those of us that were leading the change not in the rooms. So faculty were very open and they were able to feed off of each other. And so it was helpful too. I think that qualitative feedback is important. Janet asked, do you know what the control panel is that's being used in the rooms?
I'm honestly not sure, but I think it might be the Logitech one that she showed during the lunch session, during the presentation that Roseanne was showing. I think it might be that one because it looked very similar.
Technology matters, doesn't it? Although you don't have to have technology to start a HyFlex. We went basic with, you know, our on campus is on campus and our online is online. And we didn't merge the two, you know, we didn't do the virtual portion in it where we're watching the screen for the students who are connecting virtually. So you can start basic and then develop it further and further as you learn as an institution, most definitely. Are there any other questions for Laura about her pilot study? I think even though it's Singapore, it certainly is universal. You know, the experiences of what you found and what you learned certainly are universal. How can they reach you? Are you able to put your contact information in the chat?
Yes.
The video is available for everyone to watch again if you'd like to do that.
That's my email. Feel free to drop me an email.
Terrific, terrific. Sounds like Felipe is on channeling you, knowing exactly what questions for, so that's good. Well, we do hope that this has been helpful information from both presenters. Both were very good, very informative. I love hearing about it because it reinforces the value of what we're all doing and why we're doing it. And just always remember to go back to the why, you know, and that's where pilot studies are really helpful because it forces you to think, well, why am I doing this? Why do we think this might work? And when you hear from students and you hear from faculty and you hear from administrators and you hear from every department that is involved in implementing it, when you get these answers to why, it makes you to work even harder to make it work, right? So Reza, what do you think we do for the last 5 minutes?
I know the question and answers about any of the presentations, any two of the presentations. Otherwise, you can just like
questions, right? Questions for Jamie and Chelsea too.
I would like to add one last thing, actually, because as you were saying, the why on why we're doing this, and I have to say, especially in our teacher training, we've noticed that now that we offer the flexibility of either attending online or on site, attendance has gone up. So where we were sort of struggling to get people in and maybe it just didn't fit in their schedule or they did not want to come all the way to campus for just a 1 or 2 hour session, we noticed that attendance has increased. So that's great.
Yes, we had that exact same experience because a student has to decide, am I going to make it there? And if they don't make it, well, then they miss out on the whole week. Well, now they don't have to because they've got the HyFlex opportunity. So it's great to hear that you were getting the same data too. Yeah, so there's a lot. We've got to remember that the flexibility is for the students. And so they're the ones that really benefit from it. Terrific. Any other questions from anyone for either presenter? No? Well, then we get 3 minutes back in our day. And we'll continue. If you do have questions continuing it on, you can list it in the Whova platform. And then we are all back at, let's see, we are back at 2 o'clock. So in 15 minutes, we're back for the panel presentation. So you'll get to hear several of us talk again about how wonderful HyFlex is and the challenges that we've all faced and the benefits that we've all gained from it. So thank you, Laura. Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, everyone.
We appreciate your participation.
thank you so much.
Thank you.